Here's an experiment for you. Take passionate experts in human resource technology. Invite cross-industry experts from inside and outside HR. Mix in what's happening in people analytics today. Give them the technology to connect. Hit record. Pour their discussions into a beaker. Mix thoroughly. And voila, you get the HR Data Labs podcast, where we explore the impact of data and analytics to your business. We may get passionate and even irreverent, but count on each episode challenging and enhancing your understanding of the way people data can be used to solve real-world problems. Now, here's your host, David Turetsky.
Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky, alongside my friend, trusted co-host, colleague, partner, and Salary.com co-employee, Dwight Brown.
David Turetsky, how are you?
I'm okay. As you can tell, I've had a lot of caffeine today, so this is going to go by really fast.
David's like a hummingbird today. He's just all over the place.
Why? I don't know why the Flight of the Valkyrie just came into my mind, that song. But we have a very special guest today, Kimberly Bowen. Kimberly, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm probably going to match your energy, so just get ready.
Awesome. Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Kimberly, tell us a little bit about you and how you got to this moment in time.
Yeah, so I grew up as an Air Force brat. I'm based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, but grew up all over this great country and Canada. Actually graduated from high school there.
Wow.
And I work for a major disability provider and have been in HR for about 23 years now.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So you speak Canuck?
I do not.
And you play hockey. And you play hockey.
I like to watch hockey.
Oh,
I do not play, but I do like to watch. Okay. I got into it, and in high school we had a great hockey team. And so, yeah, I'm still very much a hockey fan to this day. As the Canadians would say, there was a fight and then a hockey game broke out.
I was going to ask, do you like hockey for the hockey or do you like it for the fights? I like it for the fights,
Hey, listen, I played for 50 years. I've only gotten to like 5 or 6 fights during that time.
Well, you weren't doing it right.
Well,
there should be one every
also,
game.
But I'm a goalie too. And a goalie fight is a very rare occasion.
That's rare.
Yeah.
Yes.
My helmet's right behind me. But yeah, no, it's not something that we actively tried to do.
Yeah. No, in your position, that makes complete sense.
Thank you. But now that you've told us all that background, now I'm going to ask you, was that the one fun thing that no one knows about you? Or do people kind of know about that about you?
Yeah, so I think most people know that. There is one fun fact that people don't know, and I'm going to tell it as quickly as I can. Okay. And I will be very transparent. It's kind of born from a trauma experience. But here's the deal. I have a wardrobe calendar, and I can tell you what I am going to wear 365 days of the year.
Really?
I started yes, this is a true story. Very few people know this, but it is true about me. So in high school, I'll just tell you, my maiden name is Strange. So I was Kimberly Strange. And if you remember in school, it was always last name first. So the very first day of school, and the teacher would take attendance, I was Strange Kimberly. So I was primed for all the bullying.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
That's like 25 years of therapy in the making, right there.
Oh my God, it so is.
So by the time I got to high school, there's nothing I can do about my name. And I saw the Mean Girls and some of the things that people were getting picked on for. And I just will never forget the very first day of the very first week of high school. There's a group of girls, really, Mean Girls are a thing. And they said to this poor kid, "Didn't you wear those same jeans on Tuesday?" Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I can't do anything about my name, but I can control what I wear. And so I went home that night and I literally took every piece of clothing that I owned out and I mix and matched as many outfits as I could. So I never wore the exact same outfit. And I wrote them all down, and I did this for 30 days. And then I did it again for another 30 days and another 30 days. And after doing this for 4 years in high school, it just became a part of who I am. And to this day, I still use a wardrobe calendar. So I can tell you exactly what I'm going to wear.
That's
People
awesome.
think I have the best wardrobe because they never see me in the same thing like for
Wow.
an extended period of time. So that's why I said it was born from trauma, because I was really just trying to avoid being picked on for something other than, strange Kimberly. But
Wow.
it has served me well. As an adult, I don't spend time in my closet figuring out
sure.
what I'm going to wear every day.
Yeah.
I know.
Just
I already
look it
know.
up. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
That's
my
amazing.
God.
And people ask, well, what if you don't feel like wearing that thing that day? Well, then I just look at the calendar and figure out what else do I want to wear, and then I swap those outfits.
That's amazing. That's brilliant.
You officially win the award for the best
You do.
story. Hands down. Hands down. Of all the things we've heard, none have been that good.
Now,
None.
Everybody's gonna want to figure out how to do it. I so wish I could connect with somebody who could help me figure out.
Horrendous.
Well, if somebody could help me figure out how to do this in app format, I could market this and sell it. It'd be great.
You and me. We'll do it. We'll get it done.
That'd be awesome.
Sold.
Wow.
However,
Wardrobe calendar.
I have another thing that we definitely need to talk about. So had you gotten your PhD, you
No.
would have been Dr. Strange.
Yes, I would have been Dr. Strange. Didn't go that far in school, just had the master's. But yes, I would have been Dr. Strange. But here's the thing.
One of the greatest
Now,
Marvel characters.
It would have been super cool. It would not have been, it was not cool in high school. But today, yeah, it would have been cool if I was
there
Dr.
was a
Strange.
faction of kids who you probably didn't want to hang out with, but there were a faction of kids who loved Dr. Strange and probably would have embraced you as their god.
Yeah, I missed that crowd. I missed them. I don't know where those students were, but
No,
I
they
missed
were
them.
there. They were there. They were the invisible people because I was part of them. So I know.
Well, I was invisible too, except for my name.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. You stayed under the radar.
I was the only Strange usually in the whole school, so that usually got passed around pretty quickly. But,
Kimberly, we already love you. So,
thank you.
And the people who are listening are going, oh my God, these guys are having too much fun. But this is a podcast about human resources. And so we've got to get to the topic because the topic is just awesome too. So today's topic is recruiting for niche talent in niche labor markets. So, Kimberly, our first question is, what's one of the biggest challenges in recruiting and retaining talent in today's competitive job market?
Hi there, I'm Peter Zollman. I'm a co-host of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast.
And I'm Stephen Rothberg, and I guess that makes me the other co-host.
Every other week, we're joined by guests from the world's leading job sites.
Together, we analyze news about general, niche, and aggregator job board and recruitment marketplaces sites.
Make sure you sign up and subscribe today.
Yeah, this is just a great question, and I'm so excited to talk about it. So I think there's two things that have happened over the last couple of years that both employers and job seekers have to acknowledge is that the labor market has shifted. As a result of COVID, one of the things that we know happened was that there was a pretty sizable migration of people moving to different areas within the country. So you had people that were in the city that were moving into more, rural areas. Some folks migrated from big cities to small towns. And so where the talent exists today and that heat map or the landscape of that is very different than what it was even 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that I think companies really need to understand is, what does their labor market look like today? Because most companies are used to just casting a net and, hiring locally for specific talent. And when we talk about niche talent, we're really talking about your finance, your DTO, your kind of highly specialized knowledge and skill sets. And maybe you're fishing in a pond where there's no fish anymore. And so you've got to really adjust. So one of the first things that employers have to do is really re-educate themselves about what their labor market looks like today. Because like I said, it's gone through a pretty sizable shift. And then the other piece that I think is also challenging within the labor market today is that 3 or 4 years ago, the candidate or the job seeker, let's be honest, they had the upper hand. And there were a lot of things that people could ask for, and companies were pretty flexible. We were rolling out the red carpet for talent.
Right.
And that's not so much the case anymore. So the things that maybe were permissible to ask for or to even expect a company to provide 3 years ago, it's just not a reality. And I think all of this has changed so quickly that, to be honest, I think it's given both employers and job seekers a little bit of whiplash because people don't realize that things have changed. And so they're still operating off of some outdated principles. And, both sides have got to make some changes to be able to meet in the middle. Because if you look at the labor market today, what's interesting is that unemployment is lower than it has been in years, decades. I mean, I think we're 3.9% for the month of February. And I think that equates to about 6.5 million people out of work, but there's about 8.8 million jobs. So if there's more jobs than there are job seekers, why can't companies hire and why can't people find jobs? So it's really this mismatch that's happening in our labor market today that has to be addressed and has to be acknowledged.
So let's first take one of those pieces and try and examine it a little further, because it's actually, to me, it's fascinating, which is the culture of a company who's trying to recruit in their own market. The world is now your oyster. You can hire from anywhere, but you still have those managers who insist, no, I want to find someone local. I want to have someone come into the office if they're an in-the-office type of place for right now.
Right.
And I think what you're saying is get over yourself. This is no longer the situation where you can put an ad in the New York Times or wherever and expect someone to apply for it and then be able to walk in your office, to do the interviews. The world has changed significantly, right? I mean, the dynamics of that have changed.
Absolutely correct. So I think what companies have to do is they've got to look at what makes sense, not only for their business from a cultural perspective, but what makes sense from a labor market and a talent perspective, and how do you sort of marry the two? So I'll tell you what we've done within our organization is that we're a hybrid organization, right? So we have a percentage of our jobs that are what we call campus-based, and folks are expected to come into the office, but we also acknowledge that a percentage of our workforce needs to be fully remote. And what is encapsulated in, that particular bucket of remote roles are those niche jobs. So when we know that we need to hire in the technology space or in the finance space, because that talent pool is in such high demand and there is a short supply compared to how many employers are needing to hire in that space, you have to be flexible. So we allow those roles to be remote. We allow those roles to have more flexibility around where they work. And that works for us.
And do you ever see backlash and resentment toward those niche jobs as a result of that?
Sometimes. I mean, I think that, but it's less about those roles. I think people really kind of understand, okay, it's difficult to find that talent in the local markets. And so maybe you have to hire remotely. I think where we still see some expectancy is that just sort of, as I talked about, holding on to sort of outdated philosophies of, hey, I did this job remotely for 2 years during COVID. I don't understand why I can't continue to do it remotely.
Right.
And that's not really the debate. I don't think anybody's debating whether the jobs can be done. There's a lot of things that you can do. The question is, should you? And so I think that's what we as an organization and most companies are really grappling with is based on our culture, our strategic plans, where we're trying to take our organization, what really serves that from a labor perspective? Can we do that with a fully remote workforce? Or can we do that with a hybrid? Or does everybody have to work in the office? And so I think that that dynamic is different for every organization. And companies have to make that decision, but not in a vacuum, right? You look at your peers, you see what other organizations are doing, you take feedback from your employees, you look at productivity. I mean, there's a lot of pieces of information that I think companies can look at to figure out what that needs to be for them.
But I think it's a very confusing picture right now because many companies are struggling with what's the best thing. And there really isn't an answer. You have some on this side that say everybody's got to be in the office, and then some on this side that go, why? And have embraced full remote. And then there's some like you are in the middle where, some people can be, some people don't have to be. But to me, there's some kind of freedom in being able to say, I can hire the best talent I can if I don't worry about where they're located. And take the and I'm sorry if I'm insulting people, the myopathy of they must be in the office and they must do that. Well, okay, well, wait a minute. If I can find someone who's got all the skills and they check all the boxes except for one, which is location.
Yes.
And if you kind of need them to be there every once in a while, okay, fine. Pay for a plane ticket or a bus ticket or whatever, or, a train ticket. But hiring the best person doesn't necessarily mean they need to live next door.
That is absolutely correct. And I think that's where, for organizations like mine, where we understand that. And so we have that flexibility. And let me say, if we have a role that does not fall within the finance or the technology space, but maybe it requires a special experience or a special knowledge, and we know that talent does not exist in our local markets, and we're going to have to go outside of that, we will. And we'll make that decision. And so I think that's the key, right? Is that you've got to have the flexibility within your organization to make different choices based on the circumstances and whatever is going to meet your needs. I think for those organizations that are trying to sort of shoehorn everybody into a one-size-fits-all solution, I think that's where you have the challenge. But, for us, our employees work in the office. If you are an individual contributor, it's 2 days a week. And if you're a people leader, then it's 3. And so we still, even within that, they still have some days to work from home or work wherever they want to work. And then in addition to that, we actually offer 1 week out of every quarter, you can work from anywhere. So, if your family goes to the beach every, July, and maybe you don't want to use your PTO and you don't want to take all your time, go work from the beach for a week and use that as your work from anywhere for the work from anywhere week for the quarter. So I think, again, it's about that flexibility. However you can provide that flexibility within your organization, and it supports your culture and it supports your strategic vision, then do it.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe. This podcast is made possible by Salary.com. Now, back to the show.
What about those single parents or even the parents who are two earners they're both working? Do you think that there is a way we can support them by offering, whether it's a childcare benefit? And I know that there's, the flexible spending account for childcare, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about access to like some kind of service or whatever, or some reasonable accommodation. So if the kid has to get off the bus and you said they need to be in the office 3 days a week when they don't have anybody to help them there, what do you say about the kind of flexibility that's built into the people who have been flexibly working from home?
So I think that gets into the benefits, right, of whatever that organization is offering. And that really is about meeting your employees where they are.
Exactly.
So you've got to take a look at what can you do that's reasonable, right? Because everybody's got skin in this game. I can't solve childcare issues for our workforce, single-handedly. They've got to meet us halfway.
You're Dr. Strange.
But I am Dr. Strange, but I don't, my powers are not working. My powers are not working right now. But we have such a robust, so we have have things like, so one of the things, and not to skip away from childcare, because that certainly is important. And that's a whole other issue. You guys could do a whole other show
Sure.
on the lack of childcare in this country today. But what's also on the other end of that spectrum, because we're dealing with a multi-generation workforce,
Right.
is caregivers. So we
Right.
have a lot of our employees that are taking care of parents. And so we've got caregiver leave. We have, other benefits. We do have backup childcare support. So we do have those types of benefits that can support our employees in making plans and how to manage some of those pieces of their life.
Right.
And then again, we also, we have managers who are empowered to say, okay, I'm going to work with this person. And if they need to get a kid off the bus for the next 4 weeks because they need time to make alternative arrangements, then I can do that. So again, it goes back to employers have a lot of flexibility in what they can do. But the flip side to that is the employee also has to meet them in the middle, and they can't expect that we're going to carry the brunt or carry the weight of all of this. They've got to make some decisions and some concessions too. And if it's not the right culture, the right organization, if you're trying to work a hybrid job and you really need 100% fully remote because of your own personal circumstances, then, as an employee, you have a choice to make. You can't expect the employer to solve all of those issues for you.
Absolutely. Oh,
so
sure.
It's two-way street. But I think that, as I said at the beginning, everybody's kind of recovering from some whiplash because things looked very different 3 years ago.
Sure.
And that's one of the problems, though, is that whiplash, it's not all on the employee and it cannot be all on the employer. There has to be some give and take, and it has to be a mature conversation.
That's right.
It's not always been the case. As we've seen, actually, with return to work, where one side says, you're going to get your butt in here and you're going to be here 5 days a week and you're going to be here 8 hours a day, you're fired. I mean, I'm not really sure what that leader was thinking about when they were so draconian about that, pronouncement. But that's not what we expect after what we just dealt with through COVID-19. Right. So, as employees, let's put on our employee hat now, the equation's changed a little bit too. And we now have seen that employees have gotten some of that quote unquote power about how I want to work, how I want to live, and what my balance between life work is, not work life, but life work, so that the intentionality of I want to live and then I have to do my job, not I'm going to take a call at 10 p.m. even when I'm putting my kid to bed because, there's an emergency. People have gotten a little bit of that power, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say so. I mean, I think that, 3 years ago when we were all trying to navigate through COVID and what was necessary, decisions that were necessary at that time, it definitely shifted things. What I will say, though, is that COVID was absolutely, for many of us will be probably one of the worst experiences of our lives as we, look back on our history. And what we've lived through for all of us that went through that. But there was a life before COVID, and it didn't wipe all of those things away. And so I think that there are definitely some things that have changed and have evolved and are moving forward. But there are also some things that are simply going back to the way they were pre-COVID, because that's how those things work. And so there is an expectation within organizations that culture is very important. There are things about, an organization that it requires people to be in the office. It requires people to have face time with one another. So, for example, within my organization, we are extremely committed to community service. We give to our community, where the communities where we live and work, we give to those communities through volunteerism, through financial support. We need our employees coming into the office to participate in those things, because some of those things we do here on site.
Right.
You can't do that remotely. You can't pack care packages for, homeless people. You can't, pack care packages for teachers. These are some of the things that we do. You can't do that from home. Now, I won't say you can't, but part of that is there's a cultural component for us working on those things together.
Right.
That is very important for our growth as an organization. It strengthens and deepens, our commitment to our values and to our purpose as a company. And so for us, those are important times that we would want people to be in the office. So that was the case pre-COVID. So we weren't able to do those things during COVID, but now we can. So that's not a new ask or, something that we're just being difficult about. We're just right-sizing something that was already in play before we all got hit with COVID.
Totally understand what you're saying, Kimberly. However, there's reasons to ask people to come into the office, and that's a really good one, right? Having an event like that, having meetings, team meetings that, listen, if you can, please make it in for a team meeting. We want to be together. We want to, talk about things, and, we want to try and problem solve. However, just like both of us know, the commuting, the cost, the kids on the bus and not, a lot of those things, except for the being in person and being together and doing care packages, which are wonderful, those are all things that can happen remotely. The things about getting together and sharing your culture, yeah, I get it. But that's an event. You can have people come into the event, can't you?
Of course. But here's the thing. We believe that face-to-face interactions, albeit, as I mentioned before, 2 days a week or 3 days a week, we believe all of those interactions, in-person meetings, not just the CSR and community service events, but all of that interaction strengthens the culture of our company, the relationships, the working relationships that people have. And so for us, that makes sense. And because I think that we have been able to clearly articulate that to our workforce and they get it, we've been able to sustain that. Now, we came back to the office a long time ago, but I get that not everybody was on that same timeline. So some people are at a different stage of this, work than we are. We've been back to work for a few years now, so it's very different.
Hey, are you listening to this and thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could talk to David about this? Well, you're in luck. We have a special offer for listeners of the HR Data Labs podcast. A free half-hour call with me about any of the topics we cover on the podcast or whatever is on your mind. Go to salary.com/HRDL consulting to schedule your free 30-minute call today.
And I think that kind of gets to the employee value proposition. And when you're trying to find those really hard to find people, or you have situations where, you've already hired from the very beginning, even pre-COVID, you hired excellent talent like my colleague Dwight Brown and never lived near a salary.com office, not expecting him to come in except for on team meetings.
On-site meetings or something, yeah.
Yeah. So, there is that, especially given what we were talking about niche markets and finding niche talent, it's really difficult, as we've just mentioned, to try and look at a geographic area and say, I'm only going to hire here, right? And then be able to extend an offer to someone who's in Kuala Lumpur or, hiring someone overseas, or even using gig work. Those have really got to be kind of your, not necessarily a stopgap, but, that's filling in for those niche players that you just can't find elsewhere, aren't they?
Maybe. I mean, I think it depends on what you're hiring for. I also think it depends on where you're located. I think one of the issues that we have is that, we're a multi-location organization. So that's the other issue, right? Is that we aren't just one building in one city. We have what we would call 3 home offices within the country. And then we have about 75 sales offices, across the states. So we have some options in terms of where we can put people.
Right.
So we don't always necessarily have to go to the remote because we have so many locations that we can connect people to. And so for us, that's a unique circumstance that I know not every employer has.
Right.
But I think that's so if you have a main office, maybe in a major city, maybe you need to find talent elsewhere, but do you have a smaller office or a sales office or, somewhere else that maybe you can look for talent? And in that particular labor market, the talent that you need, especially in that niche area, is ripe. For us, we're very close to Atlanta. We have an Atlanta hub. And so we hire a lot of our niche roles in that office versus in our Chattanooga office, because the talent pool there is much healthier for those skill sets than it is here in Chattanooga. And so I think geography definitely plays a role. But again, it's what type of flexibility do you have to make different talent decisions around where you place, the talent. And if you have more than one office, then, use that to your advantage if you can.
Geography matters, but so does dispersion, basically.
Well, one of the fun things that just happened to salary.com is a bunch of our associates actually we started hiring people, but also we started realizing there's a bunch of people in the Denver area. And so we could actually create salary.com West because of all the people. I think there's 7 or 8 people that are not far from Denver, Colorado, or actually in Denver. So it's actually kind of funny how that's naturally kind of progressing to foment around that particular area. And they actually do get together. There's a bunch of people who get together from that area to kind of, talk and get to know each other and help each other out. Because I think a lot of them are also, are they mostly in the consulting side?
Yeah, most of them. I like to say that I head up the Phoenix office.
You and the 2 dogs are the Phoenix office.
That's right. Exactly. My 2 employees, they're kind of lousy employees, but
Hey, listen, they're good employees.
But what you say makes a lot of sense, Kimberly, in terms of being able to, so much of this is not only about geography, but really, do you have other offices that employees can come into? And dispersion definitely is a factor in those decisions as you go.
Absolutely. I think employers want to be flexible. I really do. I think they want to be flexible. But, what I think is getting a little lost on folks is that at the end of the day, companies are going to do what they think is best for, their strategic plan and their growth. And employees will have to decide if that aligns with what they're looking for and what their needs are. And if you can find, common ground and meet in the middle, great. If not, then keep looking until you find what really works for you. Like I said earlier, there's more jobs than there are people looking for jobs. So it's just about, finding the right opportunity that fits your needs.
I mean, one of the other ways we could take this, which may be in part 2 of this conversation, given the fact that we spent so much time on this, which is the compensation angle of, the market for jobs has changed, especially for niche jobs. Mm-hmm. And the pay for those niche jobs have gone through the roof in many cases, even to the extent at which we've seen unskilled labor rates go through the roof. And it's putting a lot of compression and pressure on the skilled labor. So there's a lot to talk about here. Maybe we can have you back and do round 2 on this.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back. And you have to refer to me as Dr. Strange the whole time.
The whole time. The whole time.
The whole time.
And hopefully you've seen the Doctor Strange movies. So
of course.
Okay, so you know what I'm doing when I'm moving my hand. I'm moving my hands in a way that Doctor Strange does when he does things with his hands so he opens up time portals. Anyways.
That's right.
Kimberly, sorry, Dr. Strange, it was so wonderful to meet you and to have you on the program.
Well, thank you. It was great to be here. I enjoyed the conversation. It's definitely one worth having, and I look forward to coming back again soon.
Round 2. Dwight, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for being here. Actually, after this, I'm going to go do my wardrobe calendar. Well, but the problem is I've only got 2 outfits, so my week is going to be a short week. I'm going to be in my PJs half the time.
Wow. So this is another one fun thing that no one knew about Dwight.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but wait.
Or
Dwight.
wanted to know.
After Doctor Strange and I come up with that new wardrobe calendar, and it's going to be called Doctor Strange's Wardrobe Calendar.
I love
Look
it.
at that.
It's going to sell millions.
There you go.
Millions
Look at
of
that.
downloads.
Millions.
I got to witness the inception of this idea.
It's the app that the world never knew they needed.
Exactly.
They do. They need it.
Move over, Bumble. Here comes Dr. Strange's wardrobe calendar.
Well, actually, it could be an add-on to the dating calendar, the dating apps, because you want to have the right outfit for your
That's
dating
right.
life.
That's exactly right. Love it.
We've already developed the business plan. No one steal this. We have to patent it before we actually air the episode. Again, Dr. Strange. Sorry, Kimberly. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
You too. And thank you all for listening. Take care and stay safe.
That was the HR Data Labs podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that might like to hear it, please send it their way. Thank you for joining us this week, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.